Jaguar XJ6 Series 2 and 3 Delanair heater box. Kind of a mystery for a lot of people. This is the box when it's out of the car, and it has all of the wiring and servos and amplifiers and everything that make it work. A number of you guys have asked for a video on how to replace the heater core specifically. Before we get to that, I'll address how everything works and some of the common problems you'll have with it. So this is from the front. This is your center face vent right here. This is your temperature control switch, and this is your blower speed switch. You guys are probably familiar with that because it looks like this once it's installed in the car. Over here, this is the servo unit. This is the AC freeze-up switch. These are the flaps, or the controls for the flaps inside that control how much air is moving around inside and where it's going and what it's doing. This over here, this would be the amplifier buried under here somewhere. It's amplifier. This is the relay box that has all the speeds for the blower motors. There's a little vacuum switch here that controls the recirculation. This flap here controls partly to do with defroster. It shuts off face vent when defrost is selected. This switch controls the heat does not come on until the coolant hits a certain temperature. This is your blower motor resistor, the 3 speeds for your resistors, and these 2 pipes are for the heater core itself. The vents up here control your defroster pods, all that jazz. Let's see here, and there's a vent here and a vent over here that control the 4, and of course 2 vents here, each going to the rear. The big holes, the 4 holes on each side, are air coming in from the blower motors, and they're a real bastard to get together. So, that's kind of a quick tour of the box. It is all controlled, kind of a automatic / mechanical system. It takes your temperature input that you have here, and via potentiometer is collected to the amplifier. It also is, if you have it in auto, low, high, defrost, whatever, the amplifier takes that information, it processes it, sends it to the servo unit located over here. The servo unit has a tiny little motor within it that controls a cam bank, that controls micro switches and a pair of vacuum switches, and also the 2 rods. The rods control the flaps again, and the vacuum here, white is vacuum coming in from the engine, should always have vacuum. Black controls your face vent, and is selected, I believe, most modes other than defrost. Red is for the heater valve, and blue or green here is for the defroster ducts. The blue one that's over here feeds the recirculation flaps that are on the bottom of the blower motors. There are a stupid number of wires right here connected to the switch for the blower speeds. So anything else about the box? That's pretty much the box in a nutshell. The amplifier, there's several variations. This is a factory style amplifier. I have seen some aftermarket ones that are little cylinders about 1 inch in diameter and about 3 inches long. They can be silver or black. This one here, this is a Series 2 relay box. This is a 3-speed blower relay box. This one here is a 4-speed. It's a black plastic unit that has a tendency to melt over time. Let's see here, other things, nothing else in this unit. Set that to the side. This is a box that has been gutted. You're actually looking at it, this is the firewall side. The AC core goes right here. The heater core slides in through here. And in this one's case, all the flaps, everything are deactivated, everything's disconnected. To get a heater core in and out of this thing, you can do this in the car if you're feeling lucky. You will need to take your steering column, which will be right here if you're on a left-hand drive market car, and drop it down. I think if you're in a British model, you probably pull the glove box out and probably pull one of your blower motors out. You can cut these 2 pipes right here, however you wish. Be ready to catch coolant, and then you undo this little metal plate that you can kind of see right here. Pull that out. You'll need to pull this little thing, the wiring, this little group of flaps right here all need to come loose, and the heater cord does slide out. That's for both right hand and left hand drive markets. I kind of don't recommend doing it that way because the foam that goes in here is probably crumbly after 20 years. It's hard to get it all out. If you have a leaky cord, it's exacerbated because you have coolant in there. It plugs up your drains. Generally the best method is at this point to pull the entire box out, and you can strip the box, reseal all the flaps that are inside the box, clean everything up, and make it smell all pretty again. The blower motors is a blower motor unit. This looks actually to be the passenger side, so it would mount like mount like that in the car. Yes. The connections are at the top, which makes them a real bugger to get to. There's a mounting tab here and another mounting tab down here. This one is easy enough to get to. This one with a long extension. I believe the nuts are a 7/16. This is the recirculation flap. Make sure you hook this back up, otherwise you don't have recirc. Very important is that when you get ready to pull this thing, you reach up behind it and you pull the flap here down, and you'll see the top one lower. Then you can pull the box out of the scuttle. Failure to do that will break the plastic tabs and pins that are in here. Then you have a useless blower motor because it won't recirculate. This is an air temperature sensor for incoming air. See, it's only located on the passenger side blower. To diagnose these things, most people probably experience either outright failure of the cores, which is pretty easy to diagnose. If you got a bad heater core, you're losing coolant, it doesn't heat very well, it leaks. If your AC core leaks, you'll fill it with stop leak, fill it with stop leak, never stops leaking. You got to do the AC core. There is no way to service the AC core with this thing in. You always have to pull it out and completely tear down the back half of the box, like this one over here, and pull the core out. I would generally recommend, for the amount of work that it is, that you always replace the AC and the heater cores together, along with servicing all the foam within the box, making sure the vacuum lines are all good, check all of your pods. It's kind of a major job. I charge about $2,500 to do it all. That's at US dollars. If you have failure of the most common thing is failure of the amplifier, the little brown box over here. When she fails, generally doesn't matter what temperature you select, it ain't going to change temperature, it'll tend to stay put. There is a company now that is making these servos, I think about $350, and it will make it so that you can select temperature and it'll automatically regulate. You can bypass it by using an old window switch, and you can tie it into a couple of the wires on here, and you can basically raise the temperature or lower the temperature, and it'll activate the servo motor over here, and it'll do the same thing that the amplifier does automatically, just you're doing it mechanically. Failure of the blowers to operate. If they outright fail altogether, you'll probably want to start here. Make sure you have power at this brown and white wire. If you got power there, make sure your relays are clicking and checking like they should. If they are and nothing's happening, you probably want to make sure the relay is outputting like it should. It outputs up here to the resistors. I do see quite often the resistors do fail. These are difficult to service in the car, but you can do it. If you're handy with the wiring diagram, it'll tell you how to do it. I'll probably cover that in a later video, how to cover the electronics in this. The last step is that the micro switches over here will get gummy, camshafts fail. You're going to pull this whole face off of here, which is a whole console comes out to get this thing out. With it out, you individually got to start checking the switches, make sure they're doing like they should. If you know that the servo is working and you're not changing temperature, you're not changing blower speeds, sometimes the servo does fail. It's not very often, but sometimes the servo does fail. If your car puts out mediocre cold or mediocre lukewarm hot, it's not really performing as cold or hot as you think. A good place to start is with the flaps over here. Make sure the flaps are adjusted. Jaguar has a whole operation on how to do this. Also, the foam inside the box on all the flaps tends to wear out and blow out the face vents. When that happens, it can't effectively keep air going where it should go, and then the box doesn't work very well. The AC runs all the time, so you always have cold air from the AC coming in. The heater, however, when cold is requested, the heater should shut off. These heater valves are prone to failure. You need to make sure your heater valve operates smoothly like this one does. Apply a vacuum here, it should come all the way up and completely cut off the heater. That'll prevent your AC from working well. If your heater isn't working very well though, you probably need to make sure you have good flow through it. Make sure that it is opening. I think by default it's on open. If your heater works all the time and you never have any cooling, this little guy goes to the in-car temperature sensor. If it's disconnected, you will have maximum heat always, and can't get it off. On Series 3, this is located on the dash rail. It'll be just above the glove box for a left-hand drive car. I'm guessing it's over the steering wheel for the right-hand guys. On a Series 2, it's located about here in the instrument cluster, just below the clock. Make sure it's plugged in. Let's see, other things that fail. If the blower motors do fail, we're starting to see more of that. The brushes wear out, motors quit. And that would cover just about everything that'll fail in one of these systems. Not a whole lot to them really once you get through the once you kind of know what's going on with it. It's not a whole lot to diagnose it, not a whole lot to fix it normally. Most of this stuff is serviceable in the car. This little bastard is a bear to reach because she is located basically on the bottom of the box down here, right here. It's got a funky little clip, pulls out. And that's about it for the box. So I think our next video will show you how to get this baby out of the car. I've got a Series 3 that we'll be stripping in a couple of days, so I'll post the next video. So